Hi, everybody. Welcome back one last time to our series, Losses and Gains in a Time of Trouble. And you may have already guessed what we're going to talk about this week because we have talked about faith and hope the last two times. And yes, we're going to talk about love today. So, Jeff, I want to talk to you about, and on the golf side, there's more than one way to love golf. And you grew up, and even I grew up, not to the same level, but we grew up loving golf in a competitive way,
right.
Competitive golf. And as we've gotten older, even though we may still at times participate in competitive scenarios, we've had to learn to love golf differently. And I know our dear friend Tracy Hansen, we've talked often about this, as Tracy left 15 years of the tour, she almost needed to separate from the game to learn to love it differently.
Right.
How have you learned to love it in a different way over the last few years as competition has become kind of secondary to some of the other ways you're engaged?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's so difficult for me to not have the competitive lens on when I play golf. I mean, I can go out, have a great round. I can still sometimes pull it together, make a few putts, shoot it. Man, if I'd have done that in XYZ tournament, and then immediately I started thinking what ifs and why wouldn't that in a, US Open qualifier or something. Maybe I could, It's still difficult for me, but by design and by intention, the way that I have learned to love the game is to see it as a way, and this is the very essence of links,
right?
A way to connect with people, many of whom do not yet know the creator of the universe. Maybe some of you even watching this video, who are not yet persuaded that Jesus was exactly who he claimed to be. And for that reason, I have learned to love it as a vehicle. I don't know that I'll ever just love going out and playing well.
Sure.
When I play well, I want to be rewarded from it. I don't want to be by myself I don't get some deep satisfaction out of, whatever. But so that may be difficult, but it is an incredible tool, as we all know. To be able to connect with people, niche people.
Yeah, and that is one way, and people are, what you've hit on is the way that so many of the people who join us for these videos do enjoy the game. They enjoy it as a social avenue.
That's right.
And I find that, for men especially, we don't always talk like this, but we do talk to each other with our eyes like this. So we sit at a ball game next to each other.
That's right.
Or we ride in a golf cart next to each other. And we are talking more than we'll admit that we're talking.
It's true.
But golf gives us that vehicle, that chance to focus. When you love other people, when it's about other people, that means that you're going to have to give up kind of the default in life, which is, I'm going to look at me. I'm going to take care of me. And if there's anything we saw in the life of Christ, someone who, Paul wrote, died for sinners. He said sometimes people would die for a good man, maybe. But Christ demonstrated his love by dying for us as sinners. When we look at that final stretch of Jesus' life, I talk about trouble. This man knows exactly where he's going. And he's been beaten, and he's bloodied, and he is maimed, basically. And he's walking a street to where he's going to be put on a cross. He kept loving people. What in those final hours, what is something that struck you, and it would strike you, and you look at it and go, okay, that's ridiculous, that kind of love?
Well, it's unfathomable. It's remarkable in the sense that we just don't know that kind of love. It's the compelling reason that I follow him. It's something that I don't experience naturally. I experience it now, having been born again, having received the Spirit, the very Spirit of God in me. At times I feel it more than I ever have. I grow into this love. That's him in me. Christ in you is the hope of glory. So as I die and he increases in me, then I begin to, again, remnants, a feeling, a different sensation of thinking about others first. It's still not my default.
Right.
My default is me.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I would much prefer. But when I taste it, on those moments I taste that, and I immediately think about others first. And by design, I intentionally do things in my life to create that atmosphere. I realize that I'm really following Jesus. Trouble or no trouble, I'm following Jesus.
Yeah. This seems so petty, and yet it was so poignant. When I spent stretches in the hospital, one of the things that I grew to hate was that the phlebotomist would come and take your blood at 5 in the morning. And they would come in and they would flip on the light, full lights, right? Because they have to see what they're doing. Full lights, 5 a.m., you haven't slept well. And I mean, in that moment, the only thing you can think of is, what are you doing? Let me sleep.
Right.
And I've shared this with my wife. That was the greatest challenge. That is zilch. Compared to what Jesus was, and I've expressed it many times. You live 30,000 days if you're an average person. If you sin just once a day, that's 30,000 sins of weight on Jesus' shoulders. One person, he died for all people for all time. When I consider what weight rests on me, when I carry around a sin, an unconfessed sin, a pet sin, I'm like, I don't want to deal with this, I'm just going to. And the weight gets heavier and heavier. Christ bore countless sins. And he says, Father, forgive them. I don't know, they don't know what they're doing.
It is truly unimaginable. And I would like to top your pettiness. And I know we're a little at the end of our time here, but I have an even more petty thing that happened to me a number of months back. I had a young man who I've come to love and know, and they just won the NC2A championships, etc. But before they did, he was going to qualify this last summer for the U.S. Open. And he asked me would I caddy for him. He was just thinking we were out together, and he said, would I caddy for him the first stage? And my immediate response was, no, people caddy for me. Why would you add that? No, I didn't ever say it. The just thought went through my mind, and immediately I realized, wait a minute. The creator of the universe took on human flesh, came down, went through trouble beyond any trouble any of us will ever experience in separation from his Father, the perfect unity, and was washing the feet of fishermen and tax collectors, and then died an inglorious death for them. And I'm thinking about not caddying for somebody for this. I mean, it's pathetic. And my immediate reaction was, of course I'll caddy for you. And by the way, he won the qualifier, so he ended up playing in the U.S. Open. But we can be so petty. But our Creator, the one we love, underwent trouble for us. So to sum up all this, I think as we follow Him, walk in the same manner as He walked, is what the Gospels tell us, or John told us. We must walk in the same manner, and that means encountering trouble and loving others in the midst of it.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Good to be back in the flesh. We're together. This is not Zoom, and we can't wait to do this again with you soon.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us. We know that many of you get a chance to meet together in the flesh week in and week out, and we just hope this has been a blessing to you and to your Links Fellowship.